after a crazy week 18 in the NFL season and a crazy end to the Sunday night game last Sunday, what will Super Wild Card Weekend bring? I'll have that breakdown for you. We have two big ranked matchups in college basketball this weekend. That's going to have everybody talking. And we have two big games tonight in the NBA that involves two teams. One struggling and one's the best in the East. We will start it off with NFL Super Wild Card Weekend, and we'll go into everything else. And we will start the show right after this.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This is ABC's Wide World of Sport.
And a pleasant good Friday, everybody.
This is Ice-T, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Matty Ice.
There we go. Sorry about that. And a pleasant, great Friday, everybody. It is now time for the Scott Manning YouTube Sports Weekend Kickoff Show. We have a lot to talk about here about the next half hour or so. I am so glad to be here with you on this day. We're going to jump right into the show, and I just want to say, I am so happy to say, it is now time for NFL Super Wild Card Weekend. Let's get started. The very first game of Super Wild Card Weekend is going to feature the Las Vegas Raiders against the Cincinnati Bengals. Go back to Week 11 of the regular season. The Bengals took that game 32-13. Joe Burrow in Week 11, he was 20-29 for 148 yards and a touchdown. It wasn't a spectacular day, but it was good enough for the win. Joe Mixon, he had himself a field day. 30 carries, 123 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns by himself. That was huge in that game. And for the Las Vegas Raiders back in Week 11, it was Derek Carr, 19-27, 215 yards, 1 touchdown, and an interception. Darren Waller, he had himself a game. 7 catches, 116 yards. He had a career high at that time. Now, in this wild card game, the Bengals are 5.5 point favorites going in. But the Bengals are going to need some production from Jamar Chase and T. Higgins if they want to win this game. And that's all there is to it. And on the other side of the ball, the Raiders are going to need Hunter Renfrow and Josh Jacobs to step up. All four of those guys, all four of these players did not really have a great game back in Week 11. Now, I know Week 11 was a long, long time ago, but at the time we did not realize how crazy it was. Don't buy. That's right. I did not buy their performance in Week 11. Now we're going to have to see what happens in the first game of Wild Card Weekend. And thankfully, this game is being played on a Saturday instead of a Sunday, because on Sunday afternoon, there's going to be a winter storm coming through the Cincinnati area, and that's where this game's going to be. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm going with the Bengals because of the Burrow and Mixon factor. But they're also going to need some help from Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So I am going to go with the Bengals in this one. And you can go to the bank on that one. And that's the truth of the matter. And that is all there is to it. Now that was the Bengals, the Bengals and the Raiders. I got one. The other Saturday game in Super Wild Card Weekend, it's a very simple one. It's the New England Patriots versus the Buffalo Bills. These two teams have met twice this season. each team winning one. So this is now a best 2 out of 3. So this is not only about 2 AFC East teams. The Bills won the AFC East. The Patriots did get in. This is now a 2 out of 3. And the winner moves on to the next round. The loser goes home. But let's flash back to week 13 when the Patriots beat the Bills 14-10. Mac Jones, you remember his 2 of 13 performance for 19 yards? I haven't forgotten it. Damian Harris in that game. 10 carries, 111 yards. And that is all that the Patriots needed. The Patriots ran for 222 yards, so the Patriots running backs got them. As for the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, 15 of 30, 145 yards and a touchdown. And Gabriel Davis had 2 catches for 30 yards and a touchdown in that game. Back in week 13, it was brutally cold up in Buffalo. It was brutal. But I'll get to the weather for this game in a minute, and the weather may be a factor. But flash forward to week 16 of the season, when the Bills got their revenge on the Patriots in a 33-21 victory. Josh Allen, 30 of 47, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns. Devin Singletary. He may have only had 12 carries for 39 yards, but he had a touchdown in that game. Isaiah McKenzie, 11 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown, a career high for him. Stephon Diggs, he had 7 catches for 85 yards, and he did have a touchdown in that game as well. But as for New England, Mac Jones should have stayed home. Now, grant you, he was 14 of 32 for 145 yards, 2 interceptions. That's what hurt him. And Damian Harris, 18 carries for 103 yards and a touchdown. The Patriots, if they want to win this game, they're going to have to go to the run game on this one. And yes, the weather is going to be a factor. I'm not talking about snow. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the cold temperatures in the Buffalo area. According to AccuWeather.com, and they're going to be about right on this one. It's going to be 4 degrees at kickoff with a wind chill factor, about 10 to 15 below 0. That's what it's going to feel like. Hey, it's Buffalo. And that's how the game of football is supposed to be played, ladies and gentlemen, out in the elements. Thank you. Your 2 Saturday matchups, I laid them all out for you. Here's the deal. In the first game, I am taking the Bengals over the Raiders. And in this game right here, I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills because they got the home field advantage for this game, and it's going to be played in their home stadium, and the weather may be in their favor. We're being right off of the lake. We'll wait and see what happens on Saturday afternoon and Saturday night. But I promise you, it's going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun. Okay, let's move on. Now we got the triple header on Sunday. And I'm going to start it out with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. These 2 teams met in week 7 a long time ago. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady, he was 34-42, 297 yards, 2 touchdowns. Leonard Fournette, we don't know if he's going to be available or not. But he did have 107 yards offense by himself, and he did have 2 touchdowns in the game. Antonio Brown, he had 9 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown. O.J. Howard, 6 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown in that game. But what about the Philadelphia Eagles? And the Eagles haven't hurting so bad. Jalen Hurts, 12 of 26 for 105 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He carried the ball 10 times for 44 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. Zach Ertz, 4 catches, 29 yards, and a touchdown. That is all that the Eagles had to show in their loss to the Buccaneers back in week 7. This is going to be the 5th time these 2 teams meet in the playoffs. This is more of a rubber match kind of deal. And I'm going to like this one all the way. They have split the first. Now, the Eagles and the Buccaneers have split the first 4 contests. And there's no doubt in my mind. This is going to be a load of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. And this is your first game on Sunday afternoon. Now, the Buccaneers are the overwhelming favorites. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. But can the Eagles pull off an upset? If that happens, it's going to throw the whole playoff picture into a tailspin. And that's all there is to it. Now, let's move on. The San Francisco 49ers face the Dallas Cowboys in a big, big matchup. And this is going to be like the upteenth time these two have met in the playoffs. You remember the 81 NFC Championship game in San Francisco? Montana to Clark in the back of the end zone? I think all of Dallas wants to forget about that. And this is going to be the very first time these two teams are going to see each other this season. I mean, you got Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and CeeDee Lamb for the Dallas Cowboys. Then you got the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, Elijah Mitchell, and Deebo Samuel. The Dallas Cowboys are 3-point favorites in this contest. And this is going to be more like about the upteenth time these two teams have faced each other in the playoffs. Remember in 81, the 81 NFC Championship game in San Francisco. Montana to Clark in the back of the end zone. And I'll never forget 95, when the Dallas Cowboys got dominated. When the Dallas Cowboys got dominated again in San Francisco by the 49ers. I'm talking about Steve Young, Jerry Rice, and that crew. These two teams meet again. Is it going to be the same old Dallas rivalry, Bill Walsh versus Tom Landry? Jimmy Johnson versus George Seifert? We'll have to wait and see on that. The Cowboys have done a lot of damage, along with the 49ers. The very first matchup between these two, and it comes in the playoffs on a Super Wild Card weekend. And that's going to be something to think about. Now, let's move on to the Sunday night main event. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the Sunday night game. This is a biggie, and here's why. The Steelers, last Sunday, they weren't even sure if they were going to get in the playoffs. After the Raiders-Chargers game almost ended in a tie, the Steelers would have been out had that happened. But let's go back to Week 16. The Chiefs just dominated the Steelers 36-10, and that's when the Steelers' downfall. That's when the Steelers started to come apart a little bit. For the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, he was 23 of 30 that day, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 9 carries, 27 yards, but he did have a touchdown in the game. Byron Pringle, 6 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. A great day for him. Mecole Hardman from Georgia, 3 catches, 31 yards, and a touchdown in that game. I haven't forgot about that one. And that's just the truth of the matter. Sorry about that. I thought I was messing around with my phone here. But I want to think about the Pittsburgh Steelers for just a second. Ben Roethlisberger. No matter what happens here, he's already said he is retiring at the end of the season. Is this going to be the rumor mills? No. Big Ben has not been himself. I think his injuries, he has nothing left to prove. But back in Week 16, Ben Roethlisberger was 23 of 35 for 158 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Deontay Johnson, 6 catches for 51 yards, and he did have a touchdown in the game. Ben Roethlisberger's already said he's probably going to hang it up. Now, we'll see. We'll wait and see what happens in the playoffs. If the Steelers go far, he'll probably stick around for the playoffs. But if the Steelers get beat by the Kansas City Chiefs, like most people are thinking that's what's going to happen, I think Roethlisberger's going to hang it up. He has nothing left to prove. He's already been through this. That's what Roethlisberger has gone through. Now, Big Ben has had a great career. And that's all there is to it. But the Steelers facing the Chiefs in the Sunday night game this weekend, that's going to be fun to watch. I guarantee it. And now, let's move on to the Monday night main event. I know it's odd that I'm saying the Monday night main event, but for the first time in history, we will have a wild card game on a Monday night. The Arizona Cardinals face the Los Angeles Rams. Let's go back to week 4, when the Cardinals were just clicking on all cylinders and having a field day. Kyler Murray. And by the way, that day, the Cardinals took that game 37-20. That day, Kyler Murray, 24-32, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chase Edmonds, 12 carries for 120 yards. James Conner, 18 carries, 50 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns in the game. A.J. Green, he had 5 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown in that ball game. And Max Williams, 5 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. But as for the Los Angeles Rams, it was Matthew Stafford, 26 of 41, 280 yards, very respectable. 2 touchdowns, but he was intercepted once. Van Jefferson, 6 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. Robert Woods, 4 catches for 48 yards and a touchdown in that game. But let's flash forward to week 14, and that's when the Cardinals started to come unglued. The Rams beat the Cardinals in week 14, 30-23. Matthew Stafford, 23 of 30, 282 yards. He had 3 touchdowns in the game. Cooper Kupp, Stafford's favorite target. 13 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown in that game. Odell Beckham Jr., keep in mind, he had come over from a trade from Cleveland during that season. He had 6 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown. Van Jefferson, 2 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown. And Aaron Donald, I can't forget about him. Aaron Donald, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss in that game. But on the other side of the ball for the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, 32 of 49, 383 yards, 2 interceptions. James Conner, 13 carries, 31 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns in the game. A.J. Green, 7 catches for 102 yards. And that was it for him. So before I wrap up the super wildcard version of this show, I'm going to give you my game picks. The opening game is going to be a fun one. The Las Vegas Raiders versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to go with the Bengals on this one because Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, they know how to get the job done. But they could use some production from Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Keep that in mind. For the New England Buffalo contest, I am going to go with Buffalo because of the home field advantage, and they're going to be playing in their elements out in the freezing cold off of Lake Erie. And Mac Jones is not a good quarterback in pressure situations. For the Philadelphia-Tampa Bay game, I am going to go with Tampa Bay because they've had a great season despite all the injuries that have hit them. And I'll tell you what, Tom Brady, he's going to prove why he's Tom Terrific. As for the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to go with Dallas because of Dak Prescott. Because Prescott knows how to get it done. Jimmy Garoppolo, I've seen him struggle in the Super Bowl. And that's all there is to it. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys over the 49ers. Now, as for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going with the Chiefs. I'm going with the rest of America on this one. Patrick Mahomes is too strong. Ben Roethlisberger, great career. He's probably going to be coming to an end at the end after the playoffs. But I'm going with the Chiefs. No disrespect to Big Ben. He's going into the Hall of Fame, no matter what happens. First ballot. May I throw that in for good measure? But I'm taking the Chiefs over the Steelers. Now, the last one. The Arizona Cardinals and the LA Rams. Had the playoffs started after about week 8 or 9, I would have went with the Rams. I actually would have went with the Cardinals. But the Cardinals fell apart in the second half of the season. Head coach Cliff Kingsbury brings his bad luck with him. So with that being said, I'm taking the Rams over the Cardinals on Monday night. And that's all there is to it. Now, that is the end of the NFL portion of this show. Super Wild Card Weekend portion of this show is done. But the show is not done. This show is not done because I want to talk some college basketball. Last night, Ohio State got beat by a very tough Wisconsin team. I saw this last night too. DePaul stunned Seton Hall. And last night, I saw this. Oregon upset number 3 UCLA. There are no undefeated teams left in college basketball this season. And this has been a crazy season. Number 1 has gone down. And you think about Kentucky and Tennessee. Tennessee went down last week into the hands of LSU. And Tennessee is playing Kentucky on Saturday. This is a 1 o'clock game on ESPN. Tennessee head coach Rick Barnes has already said he's going to turn it around. But let's take a look at this team. I've got 3 players on my watch list for Tennessee. Santiago Vescovi. He's averaged 13.6 points per game, and he's shooting 41.6% from the field. Very impressive. They're going to need a lot of production out of him. Somebody else that you're going to find kind of odd that I have on my watch list. Josiah Jordan James. Now, he may only average 6.7 points per game, but he's one of the best guards that Tennessee has right now. And he does average 6.1 rebounds per game. So that is something to keep in mind. And the other one for Tennessee that I have on my watch list, Kennedy Chandler. Chandler averages 13.4 points per game. And he averages 5.1 assists per game. And the man shoots 43.8% from the field. They're going to need every bit of that this coming Saturday against Kentucky. And keep in mind, Tennessee on defense, they've only given up 60.7 points against per game. They've only given up just a little under 61 points. And they know how to score too. They've been averaging 75.3 points per game. That is something to keep in mind for Tennessee. But as for Kentucky, I've only got 2 players on my watch list. For the Kentucky Wildcats, I got Oscar Tushabe. The guy's been averaging 17 points per game. He's been averaging 15.1 rebounds per game. The guy's been averaging a double-double for crying out loud. And he's also been shooting 62.7% from the field. And the other player from Kentucky I have on my watch list is Xavier Wheeler. He may only average 9.6 points per game, but he does average 7.3 assists per game. Tennessee is going to have to stop Oscar Tushabe, and that's all there is to it. They've got to hold him in check if Tennessee wants to beat Kentucky. But if Oscar goes out on a shooting spree, give it to Kentucky. Head coach John Calipari has already said, I've got my guys ready. We're ready for Tennessee, and we're ready to jump back ahead in the SEC race. And this is a game I am looking forward to. Number 22, Tennessee. Number 18, Kentucky. I know it's the bottom of the top 25, but it's a game well worth talking about on this weekend. This is a 1 o'clock game on ESPN, and I hope you do enjoy it. And get ready for some fireworks in the SEC. Now, the other big game that I have on my watch list for the weekend, number 21, Texas, number 15, Iowa State. And this is an Iowa State team that just upset Kansas last week, or just a few days ago, I should say. For the Texas Longhorns, not very impressive. Timmy Allen, he averages 11.8 points per game, but he has been averaging 6.7 rebounds per game, and he's been shooting 51.8% from the field. Keep that in mind. Marcus Carr, he's the other player on my watch list. 9.7 points per game, 3.4 assists per game, and he only shoots over 40% from the field. But if he can step up, Texas has a shot. Now, Texas has only scored just over 70 points a game. That's what they've been averaging. But they've given up only 53 points per game. And their defense is excellent. They've only allowed 53 points average for the season. And they know how to shoot the ball, too. They've been shooting 46.4% from the field. That is something to keep in mind going into this big ball game on Saturday evening. But on the other side of the ball, as for Iowa State, Isaiah Brockington, keep that in mind. He's averaged 17 points per game and 8 rebounds per game, and he shoots 48.5% from the field. Very impressive numbers for the Big 12. And Tyrese Hunter, mark him down on the watch list. He may only average 10.4 points per game, but he averages 4.8 assists per game, and he leads the team in that category. And he may only shoot 37.3%, but he knows how to get it done on defense. Now, the Cyclones have allowed 58.6 points per game, just slightly higher than Texas. But they've scored the exact same, 70.4 points per game. And they shoot a little bit less from the field at 45.1%. Texas is going to have to stop Isaiah Brockington. They cannot do what Kansas let them do to them in a couple of days, just a few days ago. To be quite honest with you, this game is almost a virtual toss-up. If you look at everything, if you look at the numbers, like I always do, you better believe this game is going to be a major toss-up. And that's all there is to it. And that's the bottom line. All right. Those are your 2 college basketball games. Now, before we go any further, I want to talk about the Friday night ESPN NBA matinee. We have the double feature is the Golden State Warriors versus the Chicago Bulls. Golden State has had some struggles. They are 1-4 in their last 5 games. And every time they score over 100 points, if they score under 100 points, they're only 1-4. That is something to keep in mind for the Warriors. Last night, they got beat by the Memphis Grizzlies. I love this matchup for a couple of good reasons. It's Steph Curry versus DeMar DeRozan. Steph Curry, 26.8 points per game this season, shooting 42% from the field. But he does also average 1.4 steals per game. DeMar DeRozan, 26 points per game tonight. He's shooting 49.2% from the field. The Bulls are going to need every bit of that. And the Warriors are going to have to find a way to stop. Find a way to stop them. That's all there is to it. But I got some bad news. Andrew Wiggins is a no-go tonight for the Golden State Warriors when they face the Bulls this evening. Listen to the people that are out hurt for the Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green, yikes. James Wiseman, not too concerned about that one. Gary Payton II, okay, we'll keep that in mind. Klay Thompson, yeah. Those are your injuries for the Golden State Warriors. And Andrew Wiggins is also a no-go tonight. So who's going to be the next guy that steps up to the plate? Jordan Poole. He's the best one I could think of. He's averaging 17.2 points per game and 3.4 assists per game. And he's shooting 44.2% from the field. Pretty impressive. They're going to need every bit of him tonight if Golden State wants to beat Chicago. But a couple of other players I have on my watch list for the Bulls. And they are Nikola Vencivic. The guy's been averaging 15.9 points per game and 11.2 rebounds per game. He's been averaging a double-double, and he's shooting 42.9% from the field. And the last guy on my watch list for the Bulls, Lonzo Ball. He may only average 12.9 points per game, but he does average 5.1 assists per game. Now, there is one player that is injured for the Bulls who's a no-go. Derrick Jones Jr. He is sadly a no-go this evening. Don't buy. All right. Now, that's the 7:30 game tonight on ESPN. Here's the 10 o'clock game on ESPN. The Dallas Mavericks versus the Memphis Grizzlies. This is one's going to be fun. And the Grizzlies just beat up the Golden State Warriors just the other night. For the Dallas Mavericks, I have two players on my watch list. Jalen Brunson. He's been averaging 16 points per game and 5.6 assists per game. And he's been shooting almost 50% from the field. The other player on my watch list for the Mavericks, Dorian Finney-Smith. He may only average 10.5 points per game and 4.7 rebounds per game. He's been shooting 45% from the field, for crying out loud. That is what they're going to need tonight. As for the Memphis Grizzlies, Desmond Bane. He averages 17.5 points per game. And he's been averaging 46.7. He's been shooting 46.7% from the field. Now, Steve Adams is another one I have on my watch list. He may only average 7 points a game, but he's also been averaging 9.4 rebounds per game. Keep that in mind. And Tyus Jones, don't let the 8.4 points per game fool you. He's been averaging 4.2 assists per game. And there's a lot of things to keep in mind. As for the injuries tonight, for the Dallas Mavericks, Kristaps Porzingis, not too good. And the other one hurt for the Dallas Mavericks, Wally Cauley-Stein. Oh boy, that's not good either. But the injuries for the Memphis Grizzlies are as follows. Dylan Brooks, they need him back. Yves Pons, I'd like to have him back. Killian Tilly, let him sit down and heal up. And Steven Adams. This game is going to come down to who can shoot the most. It's going to come down to Brunson versus Bane. That's what we're going to be looking for tonight. And this is the 10 o'clock game on ESPN. Now, I want to talk about something a little further here. And I want to kind of get up closer here for just a second. I want to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers are 8th in the Western Conference. They're playing 500 ball right now. What the heck is going on in LA with the purple and gold? Well, let's go back to Wednesday night. I'm going to tell you something. The Lakers should be ashamed of themselves. You have somebody go 2 of 14 for the game. LeBron James is showing his frustration towards the Lakers. I forgot to write that information down, and I do apologize. But LeBron James right now, I don't know what's going on out in Tinseltown. The Lakers are going in the wrong direction. You got LeBron James acting like this. That one I don't mind. But some people out in LA are thinking, oh, the Lakers, when they got LeBron, they're going to be the savior. He can't be the savior all the time. Anthony Davis, I don't know what his problem was. Wednesday night, he went 2 of 14 for the game, and he was going all nonchalant. He should be ashamed of himself right now. And the Lakers have been acting like this. And on top of that, LeBron James wants to do this. These are not the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I know you guys are thinking about the Showtime Lakers, like Magic, Kareem. I understand that. However, at the end of the day, the Lakers are struggling. But there's another team that's kind of struggling right now. The Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets, they've been singing My Road, Sweet Road this season. They got one of the best road records in the NBA. But when they're at home, they struggle. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's their arena. I don't know if it's their fans. I don't know if it's the cold weather. But you got James Harden, Kevin Durant. They can't win at home. The Brooklyn Nets, they have struggled at home all season at the Barclays Center. In front of a home crowd. But you got to remember, too, Kyrie Irving. He can only play part-time. He can only play road games because of the COVID rule or something like that. Comes down to vaccination, and I'm not going to go into that. Now, grant you, the Brooklyn Nets are towards the top of the Eastern Conference. They're like a game and a half back of the Chicago Bulls for the best of the Eastern Conference. But the Brooklyn Nets, they've got to start winning at home. And they've struggled at home this season. That's just some food for thought. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for my closing thoughts. This past Monday night, we had the college football national championship game. The Georgia Bulldogs finally got that job done, and they won the national championship. I told everybody, and I said, and I had conversations with people, and they said, Scott, what does Georgia need to do to win the national title? I told them they had to do two things. They got to keep Bryce Young in check. They did a super job of that. And they also told them they cannot let Brian Robinson Jr. have a field day. And they did a super job of that. Brian Robinson Jr., he got held to 22 carries for only 68 yards. And that was it. He's been averaging over 100 yards per game during the season. But they also held Brian Robinson Jr. to 4 catches for 28 yards. That was it. But you got to keep in mind, too, Alabama was minus Jamison Williams. He got hurt in the second quarter in that game. But they also did not have John Mechie III. He was out. He got hurt in the SEC championship game, and he was a no-go. After Mechie got hurt in the SEC title game, Saban was like, okay, I lost one of my best receivers, but I got Jamison Williams. And then when Williams got hurt in the second quarter, Saban knew he was in trouble. And it showed. Bryce Young struggled. That's why you only saw Alabama put 18 points on the board. They settled for a bunch of field goals. They only had one touchdown, and that came in the fourth quarter. And that was it. Bama. Alabama was minus 2 of their best weapons. Georgia, on the other hand, Stetson Bennett IV, he had a great game. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was a big night. But the name that everybody all over Athens, Georgia, and the state of Georgia will never forget is Keely Ringo. He was the one who had a 79-yard pick six to slam the door shut. And the Georgia Bulldogs wound up winning the national championship. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm in such a good mood. I'm in a good mood. I want to try to give some love to the University of Georgia before we go. So I'm going to find myself a nice little song here that talks about the Bulldogs. Let me see if I can find one here. Now, let me see if I'll have to kind of move around here. I apologize for being on the air. Here we go. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will close the show with an all-time favorite. Yeah, before we do, We're going to finish up this commercial from Tide, and then I'm going to close it out with a song and a tribute to the University of Georgia.
I convinced NFL teams to turn to cold water washing with Tide.
The NFL, your uniforms get dirty.
Tide can handle it, even in cold. Plus, if fans join in, they can save up to $150 on their energy bill.
Looks like you just made the team, rookie.
Turn to cold with Tide.
And that's the bottom line.
It's got to be Tide.
Energy savings based on average switching from hot to cold and non-HE machines.
Oh, no. Stop. All right. Now that's that. Now let's see if I can find that here for you. I apologize. I do apologize for that. I did not expect that to happen. Let's see if I can find that again. I had it in front of me, but I lost it again. Oh, here we go. We are going to close the show today with one of my all-time favorites. This is Glory, Glory, Sealand from the University of Georgia. And I just want to thank you guys so much for being with me. Thank you so much for being with me here on this Friday. I will be back here at 11:30 Sunday night for the Scott Manning YouTube Sports Weekend Wrap-Up Show, where I will wrap up the weekend coverage of Super Wildcard Weekend and any other college basketball upsets that happen during the weekend as well. You guys have a great day. Thank you so much for being with me, and God bless. Goodbye, everybody, and I thank you.